Hey, today I'm gonna show y'all how to make a jazz chord melody on a ukulele with zero knowledge of jazz theory. Yeah. So, we're gonna start with just making a 2-5-1 jazz chord progression. For those of you who don't know jazz theory at all, like me, that's basically, how do I put this? Wow, I'm tired. Okay. So we start with a scale like C major, right? From the first note C, we can build a 4-note chord, and that's going to end up being C major 7. From the second note D, we can build a D minor 7. For the next note E, we can do an E minor 7. Then the next one is F major 7 from F. The next note is G, and from that, when you build the 4-note chord, it ends up just being a G7. After that, the 4-note chord built off of A is an A minor 7, yada yada, so on and so forth. That's how you make the jazz chords for a given scale. I'm not really sure why. It sounds good. It sounds good, okay? And we're going to do a 2-5-1. So, that starts with a D minor 7, right? Then it goes to a G, then it goes to a G7. Then it goes to a C major 7. That's a very nice resolution. But we have room for a little bit more. A thing that I have heard a lot in jazz that I also don't know jazz theory, it just sounds good, is putting the 6 chord right after the 1 chord. So we do the 2 chord, the 5 chord, the 1 chord, and we throw the A minor 7 in the end. So it's a 2, 5, 1, 6. It sounds nice. It sounds good. Okay, cool. We have a chord progression in C major. Yay. I need medication. Okay, so once you've got your chords, the next thing you do is just take the scale you built them from, which is in this case C major, and you build a note progression in it that sounds good. As long as you have the 2-5-1 7th chords, it's basically jazz. So the melody can kind of just, that's the fun part. So here's the melody I just worked out. Do your own if you want. Do it in a different scale. Find the chords in a different scale if you want, but this is my melody for the 2-5-1 of C major. The 2-5-1-6 of C major. So we've got the chords, and we've got the melody, but that's not a chord melody. A chord melody is something that can be done by one soloist that uses a series of modified or partial chords, the dominant notes of which are the notes of the melody, so that you have your harmony underneath, but you're not obscuring the main idea. I'm not a music theorist. So you start by looking at your chords, and then you find the melody notes in them. So we start with our first chord, D minor 7. Let's go through it slowly and find the first note of our melody. Okay. Okay, so it's right here. That's where we start. Let's find the second, let's see if the second note of our melody is in there somewhere. Okay, no. So the second note of our melody is one half step short. So this note here, this note is 1/2 step higher than the second note in our melody. We can still get around that pretty easily by just going, because the third note in our melody is this note. So we can go, the fourth note in our melody is that. And it's right at the top of our D minor 7 chord here. So we can just go. The fifth note is right here. in our D minor 7 chord. We don't have to take off, don't go down a half step or up a half step. We're good. It's right there. I'm a wreck. So we've finally gotten through all the notes that are over the D minor 7 chord, and we can go straight to G7. So the 6th note in our melody is right there. So let's play G7 and look for that note. It's right there. We don't have to do jack shit to find it. It's easy. Sometimes it'll be like that. Sometimes you'll have to like go down a half step and fuck around with it to find the right note in the chord. Sometimes it's just right there, and you can take a nice sigh of relief and a good swig of vodka and a bunch of pills and pet your dog and so good. And the chord progression goes like this. So the next set of notes are all right here. And notice this note takes up most of the space where we're supposed to be playing a C major 7. Which is a problem, because it's on the exact string that you use to define a C major 7 when you're playing it, and we can't do this and this at the same time. So I'm afraid we're going to have to make Miles Davis roll in his grave and just not have it be a 7th chord in the chord melody. It's going to have to be a C major, or we can't hit the note. It happens. Let's just find the next notes. Oh, there it is. They're right back there. We don't have to fuck up the chord anymore. Let's be thankful for that. Then the next chord is A minor 7, which is just open. And in the note, it's right here. And then the last notes before we kind of start back at the beginning of the melody are, and we don't really have to do chord melody for that part because they're also in A minor 7 and the rest of the chord is still resonating around that one string that you're hitting the notes on. Again, there are probably really good music theory terms for this that make so much more sense, and I just don't know them. Now the second half of the melody was slightly different. So let's find the spot where that changes by running through what we've got so far. That's where it changes. Goes all the way up here. Now remember how last time we had to just make that beautiful C major 7 into a C major, which was okay? Hit that note, we're gonna have to make it into whatever the fuck chord that is. So far, our second half goes. So the next couple notes after that are, and those are still over what would have been the C major 7 if we didn't have to fuck it up. And because these notes, this triad here, is still resonating because it's on the open strings, we don't really need to add much more supporting harmony. We don't really need to hit anything but the melody notes for the next little bit here. But then this note, that's supposed to be over the A minor 7. So let's try to do an A minor 7 up here. Except, I don't feel like trying to invert A minor 7 up there because it's late at night and I'm a self-taught dumbass trying to make a chord melody from theory he doesn't understand. So you know what I do? You know what we do in this situation when we get here, when we're almost at the end? We just mess around until we find something that sounds okay. So for making other chord melodies, I just happen to know that a substitute for A minor, not A minor 7, but at least A minor, looks like this. But our note is here. So we just kind of shift this, and we end up with that kind of chord, which is kind of an A minor, which is close enough to an A minor 7th. So let's review what we've got so far again. And let's just look through this on the off chance that our last note might be in there. And there it is. Yay, we win. We made a chord melody. Woo! So now practice and play the entire thing straight. And once you've got that chord melody worked out for whatever key you're doing, whatever melody you're doing, whatever 2-5-1 you happen to have selected, then you can kind of spice it up a bit as you choose, add some weird finger things like a sliding G7 or a little kick strum after that last note. Instead of A minor 7, we could go straight A7. Let's see how that sounds in the chord melody. It sounds spicy. You could also do just a straight A minor. Also pretty great, not as spicy, a little more of a slow burn, right? Thanks for watching. I'll try to upload more stuff, but school is hard. Bye.